Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast, and today I'm flying solo as I'll be doing a review of Late Shift. So let's address the elephant in the room. Why am I doing a solo video? And actually, I'd say it's the major negative that I'm going to level at Late Shift. The only negative, because this is going to be a glowing really. But essentially, this game just does not stream well, guys. A while back, we wanted to stream it. You guys in the channel that follow the channel voted for it. We went, had good intentions, started to play it, and you guys just couldn't hear it on the other end. I could hear it, but you guys couldn't, so we had to abandon it and go and play the shape-shifting detective. So therefore, Liam doesn't really know anything about this game, so I'm just going to give a quick little review about it. Okay, so the first positive we're going to start with, guys, is the cinematography, which was absolutely superb. I absolutely loved it. And this isn't to dog on the infectious madness of Dr. Decker or Shape-Shifting Detective, but those games are very much one fixed camera angle, aren't they? You're looking at different characters, you're making choices. So like when I jumped into this game, it was such a breath of fresh air to have dynamic camera angles and for it to feel like you're watching a proper movie and making choices as you go. Even talk about the first shot, you've got like that London skyline at night, which is it just looks absolutely gorgeous. And as you're following Matt through London as the commuter lifestyle, it feels busy, it feels, very vibrant, and it just feels like a world apart from what they've done in like previous entries. And even when you get into some of like the high octane sequences, some of the more slower scenes, I think that the lighting and the direction from Tobias Weber, it really did stand on its own 2 feet. And I think whatever the budget was, it must have been a big budget, but it was very, very good in my eyes. On top of that as well, talking about the budget, they really went to town on this one, because not only do you get some fancy cars, but you've also got them dressing up in suits and they visit all these different areas of London. So not only did visually it look impressive, but even within the plot there was this air of prestige, which of course was fitting because the plot was about a London heist, so a lot of money was involved. And now I think I will move into the plot. Very simple, and of course that this had a runtime of about an hour and 15 minutes, and it didn't need to be longer than this. I quite like the fact that you're in and you're out. It was quite fast paced, but you play as this guy called Matt. He's a parking garage attendant. And he's got a very basic life, he's clearly not happy. I don't think he has a romantic interest, and you really get that sense from the opening couple of minutes that he's an everyday guy. And I think that was intentional, because I think a lot of people, especially if you're here in the UK, can relate to that commuter lifestyle and just feel lost in amongst like the chaos and everything. So yeah, it was all very sort of dull and boring, but then he's pulled into this London heist unwittingly, and it goes from there. It becomes a bit of a snowball, and he gets deeper and deeper, and obviously the choices that you make can have like a huge bearing on the ending. So I won't say any more than that, but honestly, you've got a bit of everything. There's some action, a little bit of romance, potentially. There's obviously thrills and twists along the way. So if that's sort of your cup of tea, guys, then yeah, I do recommend this one. So I mentioned the lead character there, Matt. Honestly, a really solid lead character. And obviously, like I've said, this is like a hour, 15 minutes. You're not expecting loads of character depth, but there are some nice character depth moments in here. The whole game is sort of littered with like commentary moments from Matt where he's sharing his inner thoughts. And you really do get a sense and feel of the character, like when he's making certain choices, as almost like we are Matt, we're put into his shoes. But on top of that, we do have moments where like even his personal interests come into play. So like at the beginning of the game, you're reading this book on like algorithms and stuff, and then later on that comes into play when you're like making choices in the auction house. So that was really clever. And just on like a acting and sort of performance front, I thought the guy did a solid job. And actually, there's some really good comedic moments in there. The things that I'm thinking about, I won't spoil them, but there's one in the auction house. And it's not even like a witty, clever line or something like that. It's just your typical British dry humour. And it works so well. And I feel like, again, credit to the writing team, because they really did land it perfectly. But even the performances, there was good range. So like you had the comedic moments like I've just mentioned, but when he's in the torture scene and you feel like his back's against the wall, you really did feel like he was in a perilous situation. So props to the guy. And that goes for the rest of the actors as well. We're not expecting Oscar level performances here, but nonetheless, like, they all served their role pretty darn well. And it wasn't at many points where you were saying to yourself, God, like, this is a low level actor, you know. So like, again, a really good job all round. Now we're going to get into the nitty gritty. So of course, with the Butterfly Effect podcast, we're all about the choices, right? And I went into this with, I wouldn't say low expectations, but having played like Erica and stuff with like 5 endings, I thought that was going to be the best that you could get. Oh no, like Late Shift really does deliver on this front. There's like 7 endings to it. But even like when you do repeat playthroughs, like I played it through once and I completed 9 of the 14 chapters that were possible. I played the game again and I had nearly had a completely different movie because of the different choices that I made. So much so that when I got to the end, I then had completed 13 of the 14, so there was still 1 left that I had to make. But the funny thing for me was that even in the scenes that you had to play, you know, where the game engineers you to get to that scene regardless, you still had variation within them. I won't go into spoilers per se, but those that have played the game will understand what I mean. But I think that speaks volumes of like the branching in this. You've got 7 endings, and even in the scenes you have to play, there's variation within them, and you can get like different scenes and different moments for it. So it is a completionist's dream, I've got to say, like going back through this, and with 4 to 5 hours worth of playtime, I think you do get bang for your buck. And I think I paid not even a tenner for this, if you sort of look at it from a bundle perspective. So again, like really, really top draw there from Wales Interactive. Another thing I'd say as well is that the soundtrack works. Like, this could be a minor point, it could be something that, you know, falls to the background of most people, but you know when you're watching a film and sometimes you just get obsessed with a soundtrack, and that's because it takes you to that moment of the film. And it's very much the same with Late Shift. Like, some of the things that they do here, like the action scenes, the more slower scenes, really, really good, and it matches with what you see on screen. So again, there's lots of credit that's got to go like to the background team, because there's clearly got to have been a lot of like relationship building between the writing team, the directing team, and obviously the soundtrack, because that all knitted together very, very well. So yeah, guys, that was all the positives of the game, and I've got to admit that I'm going to list some negatives now, but I will caveat it by saying this, is that these are very, very nitpicky. You know, these are things that I've noticed, but because I had such a blast with Late Shift, I almost look over a lot of these negatives. So obviously we've already discussed the audio issue for the streaming. That was the big one. The next one is that I'd probably say that the dubbed dialogues. There are certain scenes where the lip syncing doesn't quite match up with what you see on screen. It doesn't happen a lot, but you do sort of get pulled out from those moments every now and then. And also, when you're making the choices at times, the timer is very inconsistent, which on the one hand I do get, because you want to put pressure on the player to make choices and for you not to think. But sometimes, especially when it's on console and you've got to use the analog stick to move across, you think, damn, I've just had enough time to read them, let alone process what I'm going to do. Obviously, moving forward into further playthroughs, it's not so bad because you know what's coming up. But it's a minor thing that I'm thinking, you know, in my blind playthrough, I wish that perhaps there was a little bit more time, because there were certain choices where you had plenty of time to do it as well, and that timer was just a little bit inconsistent for me. But other than that, guys, it was such a good romp. Like, you're in there for an hour and 15 minutes, it's just a bit of escapist fun, and I really had a good time with Late Shift, which is why it's such a shame that I couldn't share my playthrough with you. So I do highly recommend that you go get it if you're interested in FMV games. Speaking for me personally, I would give this like a solid 9 to 9.5 out of 10. I rate it that highly. And even going into this, without obviously finding spoilers, I was hearing that Late Shift was going to be a good one, so expectations were pretty high, but boy did it deliver, and I'm really happy it did deliver. So that's the end of the video, guys. Do let us know what you think, and obviously tell us what happened in your playthrough of Late Shift, or whether I've even convinced you to go get it yourself. Next time we are going to be covering, as you guys voted in the poll, the complex, and hopefully this one doesn't have audio issues, so we'll be able to jump in and share that one together. But yeah, if you're a fan of FMVs, do stick around on the channel. We've started this series this year and we're going to plough through them all. So yeah, welcome aboard, and we'll see you in the next video, guys.